What's up, everybody? It's Wes, Hank, and Andy. Welcome back. The penultimate episode of Fandom Power presents the Acolyte in review. Anybody else feel like this has been the longest 7-week stretch so far?
It's
so far.
One more to go.
Yeah.
One more to go.
One more to go, and way too much to jam into it.
Well, let's get that out of the way right now. Before we you know what? I hate breaking format, and so I'm just going to stick to my guns. Let's hit up one of these
bad Star Wars jokes.
Remind me after the joke. I want to talk about the potential for a second season, because that is definitely one of the questions that I think is burning right now. All right, guys, I do have a bad Star Wars joke. Sorry, I'm laughing early. Listen, I got a question for you. What kind of books do stormtroopers like to read in their spare time?
Definitely not like political fan fiction. Story of Palpatine and his rise to power.
No, that's not it.
What kind of books? You got me.
They like to read troubleshooting guides.
Nice. I was going to say like Target flyers. But...
Targeted advertising.
Nice.
All right.
Stormtroopers can't read.
No, that's right. How do you read when your lenses are like, you've seen that picture where the guy's head is silhouetted inside the helmet and the lenses are like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
All right. Andy, you were just saying there's a lot going on.
There's a lot of threads left dangling
that are potentially not going to get wrapped up in a single length final episode next week.
I do believe it's a foregone conclusion at this point. We need a season 2.
Well, we've already got a comment coming in. Sarah on YouTube says, I doubt there will be a second series. And I'm inclined to agree with her on that. I'm not sure that, although we did hear that the numbers are okay, that the show is performing well, I just don't know if the fandom can take another season of ups and downs like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it's all about how Disney wants to procure its money, through controversy, or you're not going to escape something like that with a project like this. And so it was a very bold maneuver, but I don't think I've even seen Leslie Headland in an interview say, I did not expect this. like review bombing's not new.
No.
Right. But
is that the way forward though? With Star Wars,
I just feel like do we need another season of this? We just opened the show with this has been the longest 7 episodes of our careers.
I personally don't think it needs a second season. I kind of think that
I don't think I need a second season.
That's fair. That is fair. I just feel like if we get the Rogue One TPK ending, everybody dies, then nothing is broken and the story can continue. Or we can tell other stories in other media. And that Andy might actually be the second season. It might be comic books and novels and
completely unrelated to everything here.
Not necessarily, just continued in other media. Well,
it's funny though, but when they do crazy stuff like, I don't consider anything lore breaking like some people do, but when they do stuff in the comics that's verges on that, there's no public outcry, so you can't get anything else on Twitter about that.
I remember a time, especially, the dark times, the 15 years between movies, like new Star Wars media was not lore breaking. It was lore expanding, and we clamored for it.
We literally had to make our own. That's what the RPG was about. We literally made our own lore. Right. So.
Yeah. Not saying that that some of that homemade stuff, it might actually be better.
Yeah.
Let's go around the table and kind of talk about just initial thoughts about this episode. I guess let me just lead with this one. The entire series was said to be based on the Kurosawa film Rashomon. Rashomon, by the way, spawned its own term that's been used actually in law, the Rashomon effect. Are you guys familiar with this?
I can say that I am.
Hank, you are, yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the Rashomon effect, the idea of the same series of events told from multiple perspectives. In the case of Rashomon, it's 4 different perspectives.
Okay.
Not so much in this case. We kind of get his, hers, and theirs.
That community episode is like the best example.
Yeah. But again,
Pulp Fiction.
this episode definitely, we finally get the feeling of, yes, okay, we now understand the Rashomon effect. But if the Rashomon effect is not from a certain point of view, in a franchise where that is a hallmark, I mean, isn't all Star Wars kind of Rashomon then?
You would think so.
On some level.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. I have to say, this episode still had all the clunky dialogue, and I'm like you, Hank. We had a little chat before we went to air tonight. There was some really disappointing choices made by some of these characters. That don't really fit with my, I guess it's, let me just say it this way, my expectation of what the Jedi should be.
Right. Yeah. So I have to preface that as my opinion too. Yeah.
I don't necessarily think
who am I, right?
But yeah, exactly.
I'm there with you.
And
definitely some non-Jedi choices being made.
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. From the dogmatic, institutionalized, this is what a Jedi is supposed to be.
Yes.
But you can't forget, the Jedi are made up of people.
Yeah.
And then people come with all of their wants and desires and their foibles and their faults. So, and if anything, this is the one thing I will give the show credit for, is it really is exploring those elements of Star Wars that maybe just aren't, maybe it's too much for some fans. Maybe it's too, like, I don't want it to be that heavy. I just want it to be a little lighter, a little fluffier.
Yeah. So it's funny. I got really mad at this episode. Like like that. I was like, I had my voice was raised. I'm not really that guy, but I was like, such that Lauren, who's not watching it, but in the room with me, goes what I said was, Jedi don't act like that. And I was really mad. I'm like, cut and dry. Jedi are good guys. End of story. And she said, and it calmed me down. She goes, Sifo-Dyas and Dooku. And I went, okay. Okay. So the tendency towards the dark side. So, but is that what we're saying about, and I don't want to get too far into it now, but is that what we're saying about Saul? Is that being led astray by his emotions and making crazy choices?
I just couldn't
leaning
understand.
to the dark side. Is that like being near this dark side virgins? Like I want something to justify this. Like,
we don't really get a sense of that. We don't really, and we'll talk about the Vergence itself a little bit later on, but we don't really get a sense of the Vergence as a light or a dark thing, other than, I guess you could perceive the witches as being, mostly neutral with some dark leanings.
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling the cave on Dagobah, though?
Yes. Right. The cave on Dagobah is definitely. You know what?
That's enough for me to lean one way or the other, depending on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that now? I've got a slide for that stuff. I mean, let's hold on to it because it's got some other stuff on there.
Yeah, I got a little
got some other things to get through first.
All right. Any other initial stuff you want to talk about before we get into the breakdown?
I think there's a third perspective that we still do not see yet.
Whose?
I do not know.
Because the perspectives,
possibly a Sith Lord.
Let's talk about that for a second. Then the perspectives as they've been presented. We've got the Osha perspective.
Yep.
And we've got the May perspective, and now we've got the Jedi perspective.
Yeah.
Which I say collectively Jedi. That covers all 4 of them.
Yeah.
Is there another broader one? The Sith Master. Because I don't think Chimere is the end game. I think there's somebody above him. Yeah, of course.
I'm pretty sure that our character that's been hired for the job that we haven't seen yet is going to end up being our Chancellor
of the Republic.
Of the Republic, yeah. Because all the in the High Republic, all the named chancellors are dead.
Yeah,
so there's 3 at once or something like that. So I think that's the character you're gonna see, and you're gonna see some kind of political thing that
we did have a little dip in the political spectrum in the episode with Vernestra talking to the senator.
Yeah. And have you seen the character poster or the footage of her in her Jedi
her new
robes?
her new
which
nice,
is I'm thinking
nice
that's like
woven.
I'm going to the Senate to talk robes.
Maybe.
Possibly for the investigation that they wanted.
Into
senator.
into the Jedi. Yeah. That's possible. They can't hold off the Senate anymore, and now it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or maybe Tenebris, big Biff head is in the background of every scene, and we just didn't notice.
Wouldn't that
And
be
we'll
fun?
watch. They could do a 7-hour episode, do it all over again, but with Tenebris photoshopped into every scene.
As always, I like to chew on the titles for a little bit. Remember, the show is steeped in duality. We've had several episodes that shared dual titles. We've had a couple that do not. So the hitch on this one is that episode 7 choice.
Well, that's a duality in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, the duality is episode 3. I don't think I needed to explain that.
No.
But hey, seeing as we're in the neighborhood of everybody's over explaining everything anyway, why not do the same?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another thing. This week, and it seems like it's every week, Leslie Headland is out there promoting the show, as she should. That's what you do when you have a new show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like it is like everything is over explained, or do you feel, because I have a different take this week on that.
I don't recall like Dave or John Favreau getting out ahead of an episode to explain details that weren't, like, there's lots of stuff, like, let's not get shook, right? There's lots of stuff in Boba Fett that was like suspect, didn't make sense, didn't fit in the world maybe, but but there was nobody getting out ahead of it and going, no, mopeds are cool.
I don't know. Is this stuff coming out ahead, or is it coming out after the episode is aired? Well, I'm not really paying attention to it that closely.
I mean, I guess I just watched the episode the other day, so I was late watching it. But
sure,
the interview that I read with her from the Nerdist was from 3 days ago. So you're right, it was out after the episode.
I feel like in this case, especially this week, where she was talking specifically about, oh my gosh, you sent it to me and I don't even remember what it was.
Oh, the Brendock mining.
Oh yeah. The mining thing, and I thought, it's not really important to the narrative of the show to know the origins of the mining colony, but as she said in another interview, maybe possibly the same interview, that leaves it open for exploration in future media, that we can go back to that location and tell more stories about the Virgins or the history of the mining colony. And I mean, that to me is
a little, so Star Wars is always about these little cool layers, and a cool layer to omit that this, like, you drop a single line of dialogue that this place was like, the miners found something here that caused them to evacuate. There was no accident. Nobody died.
Yeah.
They unshelved the Virgins and the Force and had to get the F out of Dodge.
Because she framed it like John Carpenter's The Thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so and what a cooler, like, a few lines of dialogue or a scene to set up that kind of
we found
tension from the Thing.
Yeah.
Like, when you see an homage to another property done well, we all go and do the Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
Oh, right.
But she had to tell us that homage in an interview 3 days later.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's not like we got a Zillow beast popping out of there or anything.
I'd take one. I'll take a Zillow
live
beast
action Zillow beast. Yeah, I'll take a kaiju.
Yeah, the series is sorely lacking in kaiju.
Big time. All right, listen. Let's get to the episode. There's a lot to unpack this week. I've got a few extra slides about some of the things. As I forewarned before, a lot of the stuff is my interpretation. So when we write these things, we bring our own sort of sense of what is it we feel is going on here. That is no different this week. I've got a pretty heavy subject I want to talk about. When we get to it, it will become quite apparent, but let's get to it. All right. Oh my gosh, that's the wrong one. What am I doing? No,
almost.
That one.
There you go.
There it is. Oh my gosh, it's like I'm new at this or something.
Yeah, you're on the trolley.
Sorry, a little bit of a technical thing. If you're watching our other show, if you're watching Fandom Tuesdays, you may recall that we had mentioned that Twitter was changing their live streaming model to a paid account. For those of you who are have been watching our show on Twitter, you're SOL, because it's happened. We are no longer able to live stream on Twitter. And as I said before, I refuse to pay for a paid account for that privilege.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, YouTube is the place.
Wait.
Okay. This one, it is the Acolyte episode number 7. It is called Choice. It originally aired on Tuesday, July 11th, 2024. This one, we've got 3 writers on board with Charmaine DeGrate, Jen Richards, and Jasmine Flournoy. This is the second one, I believe, directed by Koganada. We have an advertised runtime this week of 43 minutes, but an actual time of 36 minutes and 4 seconds without a recap, titles, or credits. And our episode synopsis this week reads, "A bitter truth is revealed."
I think the last episode needs to break that 36-minute trend.
Like longer?
Longer.
I mean, I'll never say no to more time with Star Wars, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to race to the end,
No.
but I definitely want a satisfying conclusion.
Yes.
All right. Our episode opens on Brendok, and it's in the flashback period of 16 years ago. A lot of what is going to happen tonight is going to be recapping those things from episode 3. So if I'm a little light on the recalling of those events, it's because we've already seen a lot of it.
I was curious. I never bothered to check because, you know me, a little bit of apathy for the show, and I'm sorry, but
no, it's okay.
I was wondering if some of the events were happening at the same timestamp as the 3rd episode.
Like actually within the episode.
Yeah, and I was wondering, is it cooler than I think it is? And I would like to check that out later, actually.
I did not try to line any of that up. I just went and looked at certain,
because they do it is chronological, right?
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah. I do get the impression though that things, especially when we get to the fortress, that things move ambiguously because we go from one location within the fortress to another that's like really far away in seconds. So I'm like, okay, there's a time jump there, and we just understand what happened because we saw it in episode 3.
It'd be super cool if you could watch both episodes on 2 screens and the dialogue.
I can do that. I can do that. I could run it in 2 browsers at the same time.
True.
I don't know how that would work, but
experiment for later.
All right. Well, the Jedi, led by Master Indara, are on a survey mission of the planet, and they work to collect various samples of plants, soil, as well as other non-specific data scans. Now, the Jedi are working near a henge, and it's no coincidence, as we will later find out. It's also noteworthy that this is not the same henge that we saw back in episode 3 in Destiny. And I have to ask, is this the first of the new live action Star Wars where we've seen multiple henges on the same world?
Well, I mentioned to you in chat, possibly, but at the same time, it's not like we got to go exploring on any of those other worlds, right?
No, we didn't.
Like we get the one on where Grogu makes contact, and then
On
the Razor Crest is blown up and goodbye.
Yep.
And then in Ahsoka,
if Lothal is sort of
right?
If Lothal is like a kind of indicator, there's probably multiple. This strikes me as being something more than an outpost. Yeah.
Sarah says, Jedi with metal detectors. I struggle to watch this episode.
There's a really good meme going around looking for better writing.
What I looked at that prop and I'm like, I couldn't decide if it was a metal detector or if it was made from a weed whacker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
mean, I'm not going to hack on anything made from real world stuff.
No.
Just, I thought what was funny about that all 3 of them were doing the same thing, but had different containers to do it with. Like
Saul had his modified ammo can. Yeah. And then it looked like Torben was throwing stuff into like a pot.
Yeah. They both had this it looked like a PV amplifier kind of.
Yeah.
To it.
Well, that night, the Jedi sit around a small cooking fire at a makeshift camp. The site is marked by a couple of large circular objects. They appear to be worn with age, and they are covered in moss, just like the ones that we'll see at the Bunta tree later on in this episode. Also the same ones we saw in episode 3. Now, while Kelnaka prepares a fire-roasted Nuna, Torben expresses how he's tired of the survey mission and he wants to go home to Coruscant. Indara tells him that 100 years ago, Brendok was cataloged as a lifeless world because of what she calls a hyperspace disaster. For some reason, life here is thriving. Well, Torben isn't impressed at finding a bunch of plants, and he yearns to believe that what they are doing here is somehow important or meaningful. Well, Saul tells him that they're looking for a vergence. And Master Indara explains that a vergence is a concentration of force energy around a location. She's very specific about that.
Mhm.
And that's only a partial truth.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, up until this point, that is the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saul adds that a vergence could create life, just as they have found here on Brendock. He goes so far as to say that it is a power that should be studied and protected, that nothing could be more important to the Jedi Order. And he finishes by calling it a noble mission. Now, the hyperspace disaster that Master Indar is speaking of, we believe it is the Great Hyperspace Disaster, as it is called.
100%.
This is the event that kicked off the entire High Republic media event.
It's never got as good as that novel,
That
unfortunately.
first one, the very first one, yeah.
Really, it's not bad. That novel's outstanding.
First depicted in the High Republic era novel Light of the Jedi, written by Charles Soule, published by Del Rey in 2021. I'm paraphrasing here, but a group of marauders called the Nile have had access to these uncharted hyperspace routes that they called paths, and it allowed them to travel through hyperspace in ways that no one else could. This allowed the Nile to strike with relative impunity, and eventually it became a significant threat to the Galactic Republic. During that period of Republic history, it was an expansionist period for the Republic, so people were being moved further and further away from the core. And this particular ship, the Legacy Run, basically on a mission to move colonists carrying about 9,000 passengers, nearly collides with a Nile ship that just happens to be traversing one of their hyperspace paths. The captain of the Legacy Run took control of the ship in an attempt to pilot it out of the way, but the stresses on the ship proved to be too much, and it tore apart in hyperspace, which sent fragments of the Legacy Run back into real space, where they caused widespread destruction as they hit planets at near light speed. This disaster killed over 20 million people. And so I made a point here on the slide. I've included some shots of those circular objects. Now, I'm just putting this out there because weirder things have happened. Does anybody think that these circles are fragments of the Legacy Run?
Could be.
That could be cool.
I mean, the likelihood is they probably burned up on entry as they hit the planet.
Yeah. Especially at that speed.
The alternative is that these are just stone ruins that are maybe somehow related to the henges themselves.
True. It wouldn't take
idea.
much. I mean, it wouldn't take much. An object like a tennis ball moving at light speed.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. New viewer tonight. We've got Harold Whaley over on YouTube. First time on your channel. Are you guys brothers?
No, we're actually ZZ Top.
That's right.
In Canada, it's ZZ Top.
That's right.
Here's a thought for you. When we first see them gathering all the stuff up, is this a connecting piece to the ET species? Because in the opening of ET, they land and they're like gathering up little plant samples and everything.
Oh, they're culturally botanists.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So is this the similar behavior that fully ties us with, ET recognizing Yoda?
I mean, they are fully tied in. Don't you know that story?
Yeah. I know.
They're in the Senate. They're represented. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm like,
I'm
wait a
thinking
minute.
more
connective tissue. Okay.
I
Fair
like
enough. All right. So that's the great hyperspace disaster. Of course, the Nile as a villain, they didn't do it so well.
Yeah, it's really handled very well in the novel. It's the event that Jedi have been literally living in a gilded age. They have been doing nothing but frontiers work and light crime. There's not much to do except explore the Force and master your saber and tame wild beasts. And so this puts them on their heels, where they have to literally start to kick into hero mode and try to save parts of the galaxy. So
and just to add some perspective, that period of the High Republic is like another 200 years before
100,
the events,
give or take.
events of the Acolyte.
Yeah, it's about
100, 200,
about 100
years.
Yeah.
So
and because they say, I think there's a line in the this episode that says that Brendok's been lifeless for 100. It was categorized as lifeless 100 years ago, which puts that in that.
Yeah. Harold, you're good, man. We just started. We're doing a survey mission on Brendok, and we're having dinner. We're eating roast Nuna around the fire. So you're here for the long haul, my friend. Okay, so the next day, as the survey work continues, Indara remarks to Saul how Torben is too distracted to appreciate the significance of a virgence. And she adds that they're not even sure if it is the cause of life on Brendok. Now, Saul says that Torben was disturbed and unbalanced, but Indara says it was Saul who was disturbed, and not to confuse Torben's feelings for his own. She's literally doing like Jedi mastery stuff at this point. I was quite turned around on her after.
You nearly Freudian slipped there, bro.
Yeah, well, it's not good. Considering my initial thoughts of her was she's some shady thing sitting around with a bunch of weird guys in a bar. Like, this doesn't look good for her. I totally changed my opinion on her this episode. Now, Saul scoffs at the remark, but Indara continues, saying that she doesn't tell her Padawan answers to ease his mind, suggesting that that is what Saul did the night before. Rather, she teaches him to find the answers for himself. Saul looks at Torben and his face curls up, perplexed. Indara thinks that he disagrees with her. Well, Saul lets out an awkward sigh. Then Indara taps him on the shoulder. That's why I have a Padawan and you do not. The two Jedi share a laugh over it before Kelnaka calls out something in Shriwook, something to the effect of, I've finished my scan and haven't found anything. Indara says they'll split up, and she instructs Saul to take the speeder and begin searching the Northlands. Yes. Tearing Saul like he's her Padawan. Yeah, it's cool. It's never really established if Saul is a master at this point or if he's just a knight.
Probably a knight because he doesn't have a Padawan.
That's another question for me. Why is he so determined to I just need to have one. I just need one.
That's lonely. I have so many whys about his character's choices in this episode. That's one. I just find like she's pretty good in this episode and she does a lot until the very end, and we'll get to there. But
yeah.
I just find them embracing their emotions way too much.
I agree with you that from a institutional perspective, we shouldn't be privy to this stuff. But this show really is painting them more like individual beings.
Like in retrospect, Yord has been the most Jedi-like character in the
Isn't that
series.
something? Isn't that weird?
Right?
Yeah. Steamer and all. Greg says Indara really redeemed herself in this episode, and Saul and Torben acted like teenagers on crack.
Yes, they did.
They kind of did. I just want to go back and talk about the virgins for a second, because I don't know if this was expressly clear to everybody. The virgins already existed on Brendok. The emergence or the fragments of the legacy run hitting the planet didn't cause this.
No,
it was already there.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, where are we at here? After riding north through the forest for a while, Saul parks the speeder bike before continuing on foot. Don't know why he would do that. He's got a bike and it hovers. But hey, other than not to surprise the child sitting underneath the tree.
Maybe he senses her.
I guess that's a possibility, sure. But he does
look
surprised when he sees her.
Well, there's not supposed to be anybody on this planet.
No, there isn't. That would be the surprise.
Yeah.
Leering at children through the trees is usually frowned upon.
Much to his surprise, he is amazed to see the bright yellow leaves of the bunta tree bathed in sunlight, a sharp contrast to the verdant green foliage surrounding it. But even more surprising to him is the presence of little Osha sitting there underneath it. Now, at this point, we witness the interaction between Osha and May from episode 3. This time, it's obviously from Saul's perspective. May holding the insect with the Force and the twins' argument. The display of Force use is visibly shocking to Saul, and he follows the girls through the forest as they head for home. Saul is once again shocked when Mother Coral suddenly appears out from behind a nearby tree and starts yelling at the girls. He watches as she scolds them. His breath quickens, and he's visibly shaken as Coral shouts at the girls how there are consequences for breaking the rules. And now, for the first time, we can see that Saul is allowing his feelings to get the better of him, as it seems that he has already interpreted Coral as some kind of threat and not as their parent, which, as we later learn, is very short-sighted on his behalf.
Is this like xenophobia on his part? Like, I hate all aliens?
No, considering that, the order is made up of.
Yeah, it's a very diverse mix, but
I mean,
would that be a flaw he brings with him?
I think it's a flaw in the writing.
I mean, if we're gonna pin it on a character flaw, I don't think it's a xenophobic reaction. I think it's a reaction to, and I'm going to get to this in a second, because there's an interesting thing here that we get out of this episode, that in episode 3, the perspective, literally the camera perspective, made me think something else.
Yeah, this all works if he turns or comes close to turning in the finale. Maybe. Like losing complete control of his emotions.
Taking the comlink from his belt, Sol calls to Indara to tell her they are not alone on Brendok. But it would seem that he's too far out of range for Indara to hear him. Well, Saul takes it upon himself to continue following the girls and their mother. Where did I put it? Oh, I didn't put it here? Okay, so remind me, we're going to come back to this sequence, because there's something that happens in this scene in the forest that we didn't see in episode 3 that we see here, and it is completely different.
Fair enough.
Arriving at the fortress, Saul watches from behind a tree as Coral activates the controls to unlock the door. After she and the twins retreat inside, Saul comes out from hiding and tries it himself, but the door is firmly locked. Stepping back, he takes in the enormity of the structure before setting off to climb the exterior wall. It is an arduous climb, taking Saul above the wall and into the natural crags of the mountain itself. Finding a way inside, Saul peers down from a catwalk into the common room as Anasea trains the twins in using the Force. Unfortunately for Saul, he isn't privy to the girls squabbling and the greater lesson from their mother, and he arrives just in time to see Anasea deliver the Force push that sends both girls to the floor. Saul finds this disturbing as well, as he gasps at the attack. Lingering a little while longer, he watches as Anasea instructs the girls to block her, and he sees Osha cower behind her sister as May puts up her Force defense. Having seen enough, Saul heads off down the catwalk, and we learn that it was indeed a person that created the metallic rattle. It was Saul, the one that alerted Anasea and Coral and the other witches.
Force them to send them to the rooms.
Outside, Saul moves past another group of witches who just happen to be performing some kind of ceremonial rite at the hole where the stone obelisk stands outside the courtyard. The entire lack of context here does not help Saul to allay any of his fears. He's either 2 minutes too short or doesn't stay long enough. He just sees what he sees and is already
decision made.
Yeah.
Choice made.
These kids are in trouble.
Yeah.
When you're breaking and entering on a non-Republic world, I mean, you're already in it. I mean, you're already in it, right?
Well, here's where we get into some of that stuff. Hank, we talked about this a few minutes ago about the expectations of what we expect a Jedi to be.
Yeah.
And for one, I think back to episode 4 to Star Wars. The 10,000 Jedi Knights, the Guardians of Peace and Justice.
Just for fun, though, an experiment. What would you have a Jedi do here? I know what I would have a Jedi do here if I was writing it, and I'm not a writer per se.
Sorry, in the scene where he's on the catwalk.
No, in the scene where they're at the door. I'm sorry, in the scene where they're at their door. 4
Knock?
Jedi approach a door. Knock. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Exactly.
And
then this whole scene could play out at the door.
Yep, it could.
But knock 100%.
Harold's got an idea. He says Child Protective Services.
I mean, that's kind of how it feels. But again, a non-Republic world.
No, you're right. Non-Republic world.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. Knock on the door. All right.
Gregory there too.
Did Greg say the same thing?
No, he said something different.
Oh yeah. Greg says Saul was super creepy towards the girls, very irrational and overly emotional. It wasn't believable.
Yeah.
You're right there. I'm right there with you, Greg. When it comes to a Jedi who's at least a Jedi Knight, who is supposed to be a skilled negotiator,
He should have been through at least some of the trials.
I have always expected the Jedi to have a more to be more culturally sensitive and less reactionary to I saw a thing that might be a bad thing.
I would even accept a Jedi who struggles with that stuff when he's by himself in meditation or looking within. Like, you know what I mean? Right.
But not, it's jarring to see that inform their actions.
Yes.
So he's like Karen of Star Wars.
I don't know if it's that. Well, on some level, yeah.
He goes to an extreme level to
No, he does. He does. You're absolutely right.
That's one of the things I did like about the scene was like it shows you just how vast this mountain mining colony is. And on top of that, it gives us maybe a precursor to the Empire's love of slanted walls.
Oh, nice. Harold says, like I said, like a Padawan would act.
I don't know. Like I'm maybe a youngling. I've never like even Barrisopi. She did some stuff, but she never made. You know what I mean? Like
broad
assertions.
Never
made decisions. Yeah, we see a Padawan like Obi-Wan never made these decisions. I just feel like I don't know. Again, it's. I do have to preface it with it's like this ownership that I have in my head over the way I think.
No, I'm right there with you.
So
I have a whole thing that I want to talk about. We're almost there.
Well, if it were Obi-Wan on here, he would have jumped down from the catwalk and said, "Hello there."
Hello there.
And we all would have cried like babies.
Right. Yes, we would.
Yeah. Well, later that night at the Jedi camp, Sol relays what he saw to Indara and the others. She remarks, "A Force cult here?" Sol says that he thinks they're witches, and Torben blurts out, "Night Sisters." Kelnaka echoes the young Padawan. Indara reminds them that they don't have all the information. Being very Jedi masterly, she also says that Night Sisters don't raise younglings, let alone train them.
Azaz Ventress much?
So I'm not crapping on this, but I do have some questions because, like, first of all, is that canonically true? Because it does raise the question, like, how did the Night Sisters perpetuate themselves?
Oh, I mean, like, is that Legends? But don't they breed with the?
Well, so I mean,
men, right?
I always thought that the Night Brothers. It's not expressly said, but I've always thought that the Night Brothers, other than being like, warrior fodder, were also breeding stock.
They're breeding stock. That's the way I always understood it. Yeah,
that's the way I understood it as well.
Right. So maybe mom's pissed off that she never got.
But I can't. I mean, even if they were breeding stock, I can't see the women giving birth and then handing the children over to the men to raise them. I just don't see.
The other thing is that I find that's like that, because so now I'm saying like a Padawan should have this level of control. And now I'm saying this Padawan seems to know a lot about a secret witch cult, a specific secret. Like it's public knowledge that there are Night Sisters. No, I guess not public knowledge, but
certainly Jedi knowledge. Yeah.
So I mean,
our director though went out on an interview and said, "No, they're not Night Sisters.
They're not Night Sisters."
Well, it was the way I interpreted that was Dave Filoni was like, "No, you can't use them."
This is Harold. I appreciate this comment. Harold says, "Well, one mother here of the twins is from Dathomir, so this is
Iridonia, though."
This is something we brought up. She's definitely a Zabrak, but the Zabrak of Dathomir, the Zabrak females of Dathomir do not have horns. Only the ones from Iridonia.
Yeah, so we talked about this in the second or third episode. I think.
Yeah, episode 3.
Yeah.
I guess for me, the thing is, I wondered if this is, I mean, the only thing I can come to any kind of conclusion is this is just a case of like how ignorant the Jedi are to other Force traditions.
Could be, yeah.
That
sure,
whatever.
I guess you wouldn't make these decisions if it wasn't about the Force, but it seems like they're making like moral choices that don't have anything to do with
no, you're right.
Them being Force users.
That's
she
true.
Seems to put together the eclipse thing very like just sort of.
Immediately like
looks and like
oh yeah, it's about to eclipse. Well, Saul says, sorry, you want to say something?
Before we go though,
yeah, sure.
Paralleling that episode of Rick and Morty where they have the women in power and Gazorp, I believe it was.
Gazorp, yeah.
And they're like, the females, they're raised, they're educated, and the males, they go outside to play.
Right.
But echoing what Kymir said,
We'd be down, by the way, ladies.
But echoing what he said, they threw him away. What if he was another child of this witch cult? That was literally thrown away.
Chimera?
And the scars on his back are just him trying to survive in that friggin'.
We don't think that those are lightsaber whip marks?
It could be. But again, that's another one of those loose ends that needs to be tied up.
You're absolutely right.
Well, he pretty much, he says, whoever threw me away is the one who gave me the wound. And then because he says to, I'm sorry, I'm getting way off track now, but I wasn't in on the last episode.
Osha
says
like
to
your
Osha,
Jedi Master?
Well, that's right. But he
doesn't expressly acknowledge that.
I walked away. He's like, no, they threw you away. And then he says, who did the wound? The one who threw me away. So 100%, it was.
He doesn't expressly answer because she questions, your Jedi Master?
Right.
He doesn't say yes or no. He just kind of
he leaves it.
Lets her believe what she wants.
Well, he says the one who threw me away. And that's right. So I mean, and that's about as thin as that he wasn't the guy in the mask. So
I mean, if Chimera as the stranger wasn't the worst kept secret in the show, the funky looking scar would be number 2. Because I mean, the only display of the light whip we saw was killing a beetle.
Right.
Pretty sure that's what we're looking at.
Well, if all the Padawans were acting up like Torben was, I could see them getting the whip.
Yeah. You damn right, you rotten kids.
That's right.
Don't make me turn this ship around. All right. Well, Saul says the witches don't treat the twins like children. Indara says that they should return to their ship and ask the council for guidance. Absolutely exactly what you should do, Indara.
Mm-hmm.
Go ask Yoda.
But Saul presses his case, saying that he's afraid for their safety. He says the witches are preparing for some sort of ceremony tonight, and he questions what if the girls are in danger. Indara looks up at the twin moons moving toward the eclipse. Saul presses her again. I know you would defer to the council, but I insist. Come with me and see what I have seen. He does little to mask the desperation in his voice.
I want to pull my eyes out. So they go together and the other two send a message to Coruscant. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My gosh.
We have intergalactic communication.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
That's an interesting thought too, Harold. I like that idea. Possibly force lightning.
Oh,
maybe, possibly.
Maybe.
That's a great idea.
Well, here's the big reveal. Saul is the Sith Master.
Oh. Cut to the Jedi racing through the forest atop 2 speeder bikes. Later, as they stand, later as they stand at the door to the fortress, Kelnaka removes a panel from the wall as Torben remarks, "It's an old platform elevator. Well, this must be an old mining site." Indara instructs the Wookiee to slice the controls before telling him that she's going in alone.
Again, don't knock.
Bust it down. Break the door open. But she's right, though. If she had have gone in alone, just by herself, it would have been far less.
Yeah, woman to woman talking.
Well, when you talk about escalation of force or a show of force, four Jedi is definitely in a galaxy where like space wizards and laser swords are the law.
Jedi with a Jedi Wookiee. Like you bring a Jedi Wookiee to the party, like you don't like he's not there to like read your mind.
No, absolutely.
Like, there's nothing but intimidation that comes off a Jedi Wookiee. Super cool. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, if you parallel it with like, a woman's home or whatever, right? Men coming in there is just intimidation right before anything happens.
It's just how much she folds. She exhibits the authority, and then a moment later she folds. And all through the whole series, characters have been saying no, 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 yes, 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 no. They've been folding moments after making a stand, and I don't get any of it.
Oh, wait until you realize at the end of the episode when they're in the common room of the ship and Indara turns to Kelnaka, send a message to Coruscant before Torben says, "What will we say?"
I mean, I haven't yelled at Star Wars in a while, but I yelled at Star Wars. Man.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
She instructs the Wookiee to slice the controls before telling them, "I'm going in alone." Torben protests, asserting that they should escort her. Indara calls it risky, that by going in together, it would appear as a threat. Saul points out that there are over 50 witches. Indara shakes her head incredulously as she remarks, 50 women and only 2 children.
If you're going into a bar and you're not going into a fight, who cares how many people are in the bar?
That's true. That is true. Saul, still fueled by his own ignorance and fears, asserts that they should go as a team. Indara acquiesces to the idea, but she says they must remain vigilant. With the door to the elevator now unlocked, Indara and the rest of the Jedi step inside and the door closes behind them. Had she stuck to the plan, had she have just stuck to the plan, let me go alone, we might have had a different outcome.
And it wasn't like she's the lower rank pleading for sanity here.
That
would have even worked.
authority.
If Saul had been in charge here, that would have even worked. No, you're not thinking correctly here, young,
It surprises me. Descriptive audio lady, who I've come to the decision is grossly unreliable. She calls Saul and Indara old friends. I don't know if I don't know if Lucasfilm is handing the company that does the readings for them notes on this stuff, or they're
remember when we first discovered that. I used to take it for they've handed a script
That's
over
rote.
these people.
You
right?
take it as rote, yeah.
Right? And then they started misnaming clones and all these other, so
identifying Basil as a Jedi.
Yeah,
twice.
Jedi knows.
Well, they do another one tonight. They identify one of the scouts as Coral on the catwalk with a bow.
Basil could be the Sith Lord.
What blows me away is that Saul is able to change her mind.
Is he using Jedi mind tricks on her?
No, that's a good question. I'm going to say
do that.
No, I'm going to say no, because if we're talking about strength in the Force, I have some serious questions about her level of power.
Based on that one thing, yes.
On the catwalk,
do my little dance,
my little tush on the catwalk. Hey, there it is.
Way to go, Zazel.
Thank you, Zazel.
Gotcha. Faster than you can type, baby.
From May's perspective, right now, she's confirmed they invaded their home.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yeah.
Yes, she was. She was.
She's vindicated due to poor writing. 100%.
That's right. All right. As the Jedi enter the courtyard, it's the same scene from episode 3, but this time from a different perspective. Cool thing about perspective in this one. This sequence, as they walk through the door and we see the Jedi enter the courtyard, it is actually filmed from the opposite side of the door, which I found quite fascinating. I like
it's also filmed on the Jedi looking up at them, so they're imposing, and the scene they were looking down on
them. Yeah. Indara introduces herself and the other Jedi, while Anastasia tells them that the Coven is under her protection, and Coral yells at them how they're trespassing. But at the point where Anastasia says the all-knowing Jedi were ignorant of their surroundings, I find that hard to believe. The focus now shifts to Torben. Suddenly, his eyes well up with tears, and in an instant, we're inside Torben's mind. The Padawan stands in the middle of the courtyard, his breath foggy in the cold air. Fraught with anxiety, he reels at the sound of his name. It's Anastasia. She calls him Son of Paupers from the planet Bonadon. Torben walks around the courtyard looking for the source of the voice. Anastasia speaks again, catching him off guard, and he snaps his head to where she's standing. You've traveled so far only to become trapped on this planet. Suddenly, a double of Anastasia walks behind Torben. She remarks, you are a strong and good Jedi. The words echo ghost-like, but you have natural desires you suppress. Walking around to face Torben, Anastasia places her hand on his chest. Tell me, do you wish to escape this planet? The words echo repeatedly. I can help you. The camera shifts to the other double of Anastasia, and it's as if both of them are speaking at the same time. Do you wish to escape this planet? I can help you. Then we fade back to reality where Sol is now kneeling before Osha, and Indara asks if they can meet her sister. Torben's hearing is muffled, like as if he's in both places at the same time. I'm going to take a pause here for a second because we got a cool name drop. First of all, let's check the comments here. We got Harold says, yeah, this is a Mother Telzen moment. Very much so. Okay, so we got a name drop calling Torben the son of paupers, poor people from Bonadon, which is interesting that he would be poor. Gives us a really good idea of his background because Bonadon first appeared in the 1979 novel Han Solo's Revenge. Bonadon was the chief port world of the Bonadon system in the corporate sector. So that means his family, his parents were indentured servants to the corporate sector authority.
Yeah.
Bonadon boasted 10 gigantic spaceports. The planet was largely strip mined, and most of its inhabitants were either indentured servants to the sector authority or they were wealthy. The planet made its canon debut in the 2016 role-playing game boxed set, The Force Awakens beginner's game, published by Fantasy Flight Games, where it appears on the included galaxy map. Nice little inclusion there. All right, getting back to Torben. Inside Torben's mind, the mental dance with Anasea continues. She says, "You wish to return to Coruscant. Your master denies you." Her words ring out like a darksider trying to seduce someone. Anybody else get that? I did. "I would not keep you from what you want." In a whisper, she continues, "I would always let you have what you need." Her words echo as she circles around him. Leaning in close to him, she says, "Why not ask me? Go on, ask me." And as the tears streak down Torben's face, he breaks. "I want to return to Coruscant." Placing her hand on Torben's cheek, she orders him to kneel. "Kneel before Zod." Sorry, couldn't help it.
I feel like he's got to speak to give her permission. Like he's got to accept this deal.
Yeah.
Is this like a vampire coming in your house?
Maybe, yeah.
But at the same time, the way she acted with the kids, like, no, give them the sugar cookies, let them fill up.
Oh, that's true.
She's very, I'll give you what you want.
Yeah.
The strangest thing about this is that the protagonists are the bad guys. Like they're, you know what I mean?
In this instance, they are. Yeah,
we're supposed to feel for these dead witches. I think
in some ways I do. I mean, I definitely the home invasion thing isn't lost on me. Like,
no,
I was talking about that like a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they weren't lying. You know, when they said, "Oh, we didn't know this was inhabited," and we're like, "What are you talking about? You're just counteracting the scene where he was spying on children a minute ago." So you're outright lying. So that makes sense. Like I wasn't lying. We've been here 7 weeks? What did they say?
7 or 7.
Yeah, 7
months.
I think it's 7. It's weeks or months.
Yeah. They've been there a while.
It's long enough that he's like, "I'm sick of this."
Yeah.
Especially when they're not finding anything.
So we have a case of like, and it's all gray areas, but they break in first. They commit the first crime, but they attack first, technically, with this psychic attack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit of a mess.
Well, Torben's eyes turn pitch black and he drops to his knees as we snap back to the actual courtyard. Well, the Jedi all take notice. Saul snatches the lightsaber from Osha as he reels to see what's going on. Kelnaka gasps as Torben struggles to breathe. Anasea tells Indara that if she wants her Padawan returned to his right mind, they all need to leave now. And just as in episode 3, it's Osha that breaks the tension by telling her mother that she wants to show the Jedi what she taught her. Indara goes through her speech about the Jedi having the right to test potential students, non-Republic world. But again, that speaks to that whole thing I was talking about before, that ignorance about the Jedi feeling like they're the only ones
who can wield it.
Yeah,
who should have authority.
Which is like the opposite of what Chimere is telling you.
Yeah.
They say there's only one way to do it.
Like, so I don't know if Inara's just playing home team here, but she was saying before, or like, that's not what we should be doing. And now she's like, I would like to test them. Before she was like, let's just leave. I don't want to, or maybe that comes later.
What's funny is that the whole testing thing, she attributes that to Saul. Like, "Oh, good idea that you suggest to test them." I had to go back and check episode 3 to make sure that it was him that initially, we should test them. And then her going, yeah. And then saying,
she even says it doesn't matter if we test them because they're too old. The Jedi Council, they know.
But like her position on that, as we find out later on, is that it's a means to buy her more time.
Yeah.
Not that it did a lot, because it all happens in the course of what, 2 days, 3 days.
Yep.
Do we think that maybe she lied because she lies at the end? Do we think she lied when she said, I contacted the council and they said no?
I wondered if that was her.
We're not there yet, but that just occurred to me now.
It's a valid question. I mean, I want to believe that she didn't lie, but again, in a show that's rife with showing us the foibles of each individual Jedi, I can't rule that out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
She goes through her speech about the Jedi having the right to test potential students. And after gazing at Osha, Anasea releases Torben, who staggers back to his feet, gasping for air. With word from Anasea that the scouts will bring Osha to their camp at midday tomorrow, Indara thanks her for her cooperation, and then she and the rest of the Jedi depart. Now, what was the point of dipping into Torben's mind?
He's the weakest one.
But what does it accomplish? What does it accomplish for the witches?
Leverage.
It's the only reason we had to set up that weird I'm afraid of being away from home thing at the beginning. That illustrates his weakness. Then they exploit it. I don't, other than to show you that they have that ability so that it makes sense when they do it to the Wookiee. I don't get it.
I didn't get this one either. I thought it was a cool thing. Oh, cool.
Sure.
We're doing, brain spaghetti. We're going to stir the brain a little bit.
So if he's the one that attacks them later, like, because they've already got control of him, makes perfect sense. But they even make a point of like, steel yourself against that. And he's like, I'm steeling myself against
your mind off. Yeah.
Not
I'm
you.
Fortified.
Not
giant, you.
I don't know.
In episode 3, I actually thought it was Mother Coral.
So did I. So did I.
It's interesting though that Anasea, but again, talking about relative power levels, and I don't really have any basis of comparison, but for Anasea to be able to split herself and be in 2 places at once.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Well, that's on a psychic plane though. That's in his head.
That's what I mean though, but she's still
carrying.
Remember, there's an entire conversation going on in the real world at the same time.
I get what you're saying.
I have the flip side of that when we get to Indara breaking the connection, because that's another like, holy shit.
What? Yeah.
On the Jedi shuttle, a downtrodden Torben sits on a crate in one of the access ways while Master Indara stands over him. Saul joins them and gives Torben an empathetic look, but Torben doesn't acknowledge him in any way. Indara and Saul leave him and they begin to talk about the events in the courtyard. Indara says it was clever of Saul to suggest that they test the twins, and she says that will give her time to consult with the Jedi High Council for guidance, which is the prudent thing to do.
Yeah.
Saul says that he feels a connection to Osha. Indara says that testing the twins isn't something that they can take seriously, noting that Osha is too old to join the order. Thoughtfully, Saul says he feels that she is meant to be his Padawan. Indara stops him with a hand on his shoulder. Her coven will never let her leave, and she calls them insular and strange. Is Saul feeling this through the Force? Like she's
really
meant to,
hope so.
She's
Otherwise,
meant to be my Padawan.
I really want that little girl.
Well, this is what I mean. Like it comes to this, like I'm driven by my fears. I already feel like these kids are in danger. And
again, a line of dialogue would clear it up.
He's seen all he's seen is May basically
cowering.
May kick a puppy, right?
Yeah. Osha was
grabbing the little fluttery thing and then kind of tormenting it.
Yeah.
So in his mind, he's already made up that's the bad one.
Yeah.
He sees May also block when Osha does.
Oh, that's right. When Osha's cowering behind her.
So he knows one is powerful, one isn't.
But
he knows there's a die.
He's missing that whole other side of the coin. Like, Mama, I want to go be a Jedi.
Yeah, he doesn't get any of that context.
No.
Saul sighs and he furrows his brow as he points out how the witches marked May with what he calls dark magic. Indara's response is surprisingly measured, and it's what I would expect from a Jedi when she tells him ceremonial markings are customary in many cultures in the galaxy.
Half the Jedi have them.
We're going to come back to that in a minute.
Vernestra Rowe has them.
Yeah. Saul points out that Osha did not have the same marking and is worried for her safety. Indara acknowledges his statement as factual and wonders if Osha may have resisted being marked, but also that there is no way to know. Cultural sensitivity here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's making these logic leaps like he's read the script, though. These are crazy logic leaps.
No, I agree with you on that one.
Like they don't make much sense. Like he's either the most intuitive Jedi ever because he's like picking details out of a hat that are like perhaps they're wearing brown shoes. but like it's kind of nuts.
Oh wow. Saul, showing his frustration, barks. Then who is protecting the child if not the Jedi? He pauses for a moment before continuing. I believe she wants to leave with us. And for the second time in this episode, Indara warns him, do not confuse what Osha wants with what you want. The warning is eerily similar to, don't confuse Torben's feelings with your own.
Mm-hmm.
Indara walks away, leaving Saul standing there with a perplexed expression. And that begs the question, why is Saul so fixated on taking a Padawan?
Because this is the lesson he will pass on to Kymir later. I want a Padawan. I want an apostle or an acolyte.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the concepts in the series is how it tries to paint the Jedi in this darker light when it comes to their sense of morality.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That morality is now further muddied by the individual character's perception of it. Clearly, Saul has his own take on what the right course of action is with regards to the twins. And if you remember earlier on in the city, I think it was Indara who said, the Jedi don't steal children.
He could have the little girl that said she had fire visions.
Oh, yeah.
She's available.
You should take her. She could use. Yeah.
There are thousands of children, he tells her.
But essentially, the Jedi really do steal children.
No, they do. Yes.
They do.
Yes, and stormtroopers and yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I've put together some images talking about cultural sensitivity where the Jedi are concerned, and this really stirred for me. This really came up. Like, the Jedi must be some of the most culturally insensitive people in the galaxy as an institution. Because here we have such a diverse group of people, and here's just one example. This is from the Clone Wars. We have an Ithorian, a Talothian, a Rodian, a Wookiee, a human, and a Natolan all together on a mission.
Mm-hmm.
Who teaches a Padawan about their cultural heritage?
Nobody. You learn the way of the Jedi.
That's what I mean.
Think that's true.
Who maintains their sense of cultural identity?
Oh, the same way we would learn it in school. That's not our parents telling us this is where the prime minister originated and this is the 1967 hockey tournament with Russia or whatever details. But no, like general education would cover that for them. But most like when you look at the Ahsoka episode, it's an honor to give your child up to be a Jedi. It's an honor.
Is it?
For most people, it is.
It? That is a low-tech species that were like, she's weird, she's Jedi. We don't know what their frame of mind was when they came to take her. We just know that they've identified her as being, she's a Force user. They don't know what to do. I disagree with that. I think that there is a real. Here's another example. We have the example of Barriss and Luminara. Now they are the same species, but you just keep going back in the lineage. Who was Luminara's master? Who taught Luminara about her cultural identity?
Right.
Look at Plo Koon. Plo Koon's master is a Wookiee. They can't even go to his homeworld together because the Wookiee will die. He can't breathe methane. It's weird.
I would think that there's like just a repository of information. And I guess if the Jedi are altruistic, I don't see them holding back.
I think that
anything you wanted to learn about your own culture.
Sure, they wouldn't hold back, but I don't think that it's actively encouraged, especially in interspecies pairings like Taiwaka and Plo Koon there. Sure, they would be the institutional. You learn about the Jedi, the history of the Jedi, because that would be your history lesson. But anything on your own species, that's on your own. I don't see that as being encouraged. Certainly, if it is, it's not really conveyed that way.
Well, maybe it's better to say that there was a certain curriculum that we had to adhere to in school, but we chose to look at Robotech manuals and
Oh yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know what
yeah.
I mean, and learn about what we cared about. So that I'm just saying that they
True.
have the opportunities, and for the most part, we've spent so much time, thousands of hours, if you will, with the Jedi being this altruistic society of warrior monks.
Yep, yep.
And although, yes, they're taking children who otherwise might have strayed or become dangerous weapons,
Maybe.
I think it's
Or
yeah,
as the Jedi would have you believe,
it fades over
they
time.
wouldn't be trained and it would fade away.
Fade away. So I mean, it's possible. Certainly, it's about swelling the ranks. I'm not trying to like gloss it over.
No.
Slavery and child theft is a thing that both sides do, and
Yep.
you could argue the Sith only do it one at a time.
These are all interesting examples. It's like, of course, in the example with Tyvaka and Plo Koon, it's like, sure, here is your basic physiological needs are met. You know, here's your rebreather, so you can kind of go anywhere. But it's almost like their cultural identity is stripped as soon as they're taken away.
True.
There is a notable exception though, and I've included, now it's a Legends thing.
I would say that's true of any sort of like the military or police force.
Oh,
or
dude,
right?
I lived it. I ate the green jello, man. Ki-Adi-Mundi in Legends was permitted to have 5 wives, not just one wife. He had 5 wives and fathered 7 children, but that was an extreme exception to the Jedi's no marriage rule based on the Syrian species' low birth rate. Low birth rate. And they try to explain it away that because the Syrian species are binary brained, that they're emotionally detached. So he was able to love his family without attachment. But that's Legends now, so we'll never really know.
Or you could just do it the Kanan Jarrus way.
Just love who you love.
Yeah.
Anyway, that stirred for me this week. I know that it's kind of heavy, and so. maybe it's heavier than what most Star Wars fans really want. That maybe they don't want to look at that stuff, but I couldn't help it.
If you look at it like each Jedi Force sensitive kid is the potential to be a weapon, right?
Yep.
You're enrolling them at Professor Xavier's school rather than sending them off to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Ah, well, that's a good analogy.
See, it feels more just in the Clone Wars because we're racing to save children from Palpatine's list.
Yeah.
Right? Seems altruistic.
That's very much true. Yeah. Just different perspectives. I mean, in a show that is all about different perspectives, this is just one that I'm like, oh, I can't really ignore this. Like the show, I felt like the show was wanting me to question these things.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of red flags in terms of like the children are too old. They're not on a Republic world. They're not, like, we're coercing them into wanting. This child never heard of the Jedi before, and now she wants to be one. Her life's goal has been to be one for the last 4 minutes. I'm going to send you away with these strangers
2 days
broke into our home.
As soon as he said there's more children, she was just like, what?
And then why don't you have a Padawan? Because you're not ready. If there are thousands of candidates available and you don't have one, someone there feels like you're not ready.
Yeah.
Yoda.
Mind you, though, they don't tell us that. Like I get the impression, and this is kind of off topic, like Ahsoka just shows up. Oh, I've been assigned to you.
100%.
Is that how it works for everybody?
Yes.
Because
Qui-Gon that's an exception.
Like, I take Anakin as my Padawan.
Exception to the rule.
You've already got a Padawan. You can't take another one. Well, Obi-Wan, I'm done with Obi-Wan. He's ready to go.
Yeah, he's finished cooking. Bing! That bell you just heard, he's done.
I was always under the impression that masters had some freedom of choice to whom and when they took their students.
I didn't. I thought they were assigned by the council.
That's an awful, we're talking thousands of children. That just seems like an awful lot of work for what? Those 8 to 10 people sitting on the council to vet every child and decide who to place them with. I just don't think that the Jedi High Council would have time to do that.
Think of them as the head of the school, though. They're
That's
instrumental.
That is true.
They actually give classes, like,
Well, we definitely see it in the case of Yoda,
right?
And also our Viking guy,
and you can also,
and Saul for that matter,
and forgive me, the big-headed guy from Phantom Menace, the long neck character,
Yariel Poof.
Yariel Poof does like mental training in the comics and stuff with the
Oh,
kids.
sure.
TJC is finally with
yeah,
us.
TJC. Morning all. Apologies for being late. I was playing Red Dead Online. Nice.
Good night.
Nice. She had drawn the symbol in her book that may burn, so maybe it's implied that she had visions about the Jedi.
That could be too.
Interesting. Speaking of visions, I just want to ask a question. This is an all encapsulating about the entire episode. Last week, Andy, I'd said if Saul does not purge his soul, I'm going to lose it. The question I have is this episode the recounting of these events
from his
by Saul to May, or is this something else? Because I saw a thing, I read a thing. I don't know how much credence I put into it. There's a theory that what we are witnessing is a vision by Osha in the isolation helmet, learning the truth. What do we think of that?
I don't think this is Saul to May.
No,
honestly, because if it was Saul to May, he would be recounting himself as more of a hero and not so much of a creeper. People in the woods.
But he's already prior till right now in the last episode, he was ready to throw himself. I have to face the council.
Yeah,
he's ready to come clean.
Well,
he's ready to get to purge the lie.
Yeah. I think, and that's who he's. I think that there's still that to come if he makes it, and I don't think he makes it. But
neither do
I think that's the truth that he needs to tell. That's the absolution. He could tell the kids all he wants, but she's present at the telling. I think this is I think that's almost too smart for the show. It's too meta. I think that this just we needed to see the Rashomon of season 3.
The Rashomon effect.
I will hand it to Leslie Headland, who had patience to not just come out and say, everybody shut up and just wait. Even if it's not satisfying, she was very calm during the people just going.
For sure she has been.
Why are you making this choice?
I'm not sure where I sit on this one. Part of me says the logical explanation is this is just Saul, because the last words were, I'm going to talk, you're going to listen. So this is him, blah, 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 blah. Here's what really happened.
Could be. It could be and the flashback from his perspective as a narrative device. But then why would we be inside Torben's head and his retelling of the tale?
I mean, that could just be him saying that's for our benefit, obviously.
Right.
He would just say that.
That's why I mean, I think the Rashomon is for our benefit.
I am not.
It's the way that they chose this early on. We're going to have these two pieces of the puzzle, and we're going to flip them, and we'll work everything back.
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to the other idea, though. In the Cortosis helmet, because what did Chimere say? It's just you alone with the Force
and what you bring with you.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not opposed that this could be a vision, especially when Osha's like, I can sense things again.
Anybody considered? I wasn't at the last episode, but has anybody considered that helmet is? So from the comics again, guys, Moment's helmet. Moment is a Sith Lord from the past who was an architect.
I did consider.
Did you talk about that?
I didn't talk about it, but it would definitely.
It's very likely. It's a canon thing that could happen. Is that an artifact could be possessed by a Sith Lord? That could be what's going on here. Chimere puts this found object on and becomes a Sith Lord.
Takes it off. He's not,
and he can pass it off. Certainly, he's still able to use the Force without it. Like he's a failed Jedi, but yeah, I mean, she could become uber powerful, possessed by a Sith Lord. Yeah.
I just thought it was an interesting having those couple of perspectives for the overall perspective of this episode.
Yeah.
Is this Saul telling a story, or is this Osha having a vision? All right.
More loose ends.
At the Poland shuttle, we repeat the sequence where Coral brings the twins to the Jedi. Only this time it's from Torben's perspective as he stands outside with his eyes shut in meditation. Sensing Coral and the other witches, he opens them to look. Later, inside the shuttle, he takes a blood sample from May before presenting her to Indara and Sol for testing. Indara begins to explain the procedure to her, but can't even finish before May blurts out, "What do you want me to do?" Sol sits down and he goes through a number of images. A Wampa, a Lothcat, a power droid, and a blank screen, all of which May identifies incorrectly. With the screen now blank, May says, "A necklace." Sol tells her the image hasn't appeared yet, and May sheepishly asks if she can go back to her family. Before letting her go, Indara asks May what was everyone doing in the courtyard the night before. May tells her it was the ascension ceremony. Indara asks if her tattoo is part of the ascension, and May nods yes it is. Indara thinks that ascension must be very important to include a symbol like that, and May recounts how it means that she and her sister will lead the coven. Indara questions, how can children become the leaders? But May can't quite remember. She tries to quote her mother, but it comes out all wrong when she says, everyone must walk through fear. Everyone must be sacrificed to fulfill their destiny. Indara and Saul share a troubled look. Checking here the comments. Tej got something to say. I thought it was a waste seeing Kalnaka had obviously been studying the witches and was then killed off. Pointless. So I took it the other way. Like he wasn't studying them. That was just the resulting trauma from having his brain invaded.
Mm-hmm.
She had drawn the symbol in her book that May burned, so maybe it's implied that she had visions about the Jedi. I could believe that. The actual dialogue, by the way, from Anastasia was, and I had to go back to find it, it's in the bedroom when the girls are fighting.
Yeah.
And she sits them down, hold hands. She says, this is a quote, ascension is about walking through fear. It is about sacrificing a part of yourself, the power of many instead of the power of one.
Yeah, so I took that in the moment to mean that one of them's got to die. And then when they reveal that they're two parts of one half, like you're going to release the power of the one and put it into the other one. There's like
I never considered that's what that ceremony. We're going to recombine you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought was going to happen. And then something happens soon that reinforces that for me. But then the character says something opposite in the lines. And I don't, again, I'm like, okay. Yeah, sorry. I keep.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's totally okay. That's what we're here to do, man. You let it out. Let it out. Indara thanks May for her explanation and dismisses her. Sol gets up and facing Indara asserts that May was instructed to fail. And with her permission, he'd like to try a different approach with Osha. Pardon me. We cut to the scene where Sol has just told Osha that there are thousands of others just like them in the Jedi Order. Sol tells Osha that she must have the courage to say what she wants. Indara looks to Torben, who meets her gaze. The exchange is as much an unspoken lesson for him as it is a spoken one for Osha. Osha tells him that she wants to be a Jedi, and Sol says that she must have the courage to tell the truth. Indara interjects and says that they should continue the test. Concentrating on the screen, Osha calls out a planet. Her answer is correct. Indara closes her eyes for a long moment, seemingly troubled by the girl's answer. She turns her troubled gaze to Sol, who proudly continues the test. Look at the grin on that guy's face.
I thought she got it wrong and that was like a droid command ship.
He turns the thing and it's a planet with rings.
Is it with rings?
Yeah.
Okay, I sort of missed that. I thought he lied.
No, she did get it right.
That she passed. Okay, because that's what I thought.
I figure that we only need to see her get one correct answer.
Yeah, well, I really thought that Indara here was also looking at the screen and realized that she had gotten it wrong. I interpreted this way differently.
That's why she was like, "Oh, no."
I
She got it right
way differently.
I guess I could have got a better
looks
shot
like a
of the
droid
screen.
ship right there, though.
Yeah. Should have got a better shot of that. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
It is kind of weird. He does lay that line on her. You've got to be strong enough to tell the truth. You've got to ask for it.
Yeah,
which is exactly what Anastasia was saying to Torben. Like, come on, go ahead, ask.
Go ahead and
just
ask.
Gotta ask.
Yeah,
ask me.
Man,
it's funny how they're echoing each other in that sense.
Yeah.
After the twins have departed, Torben approaches Master Indara about what to do next. She tells him to run the girls' blood tests. He asks, and after that? Indara says that she's contacted the Jedi Council for further instructions, but until then, he and the other Jedi will continue with the survey mission. Sol steps in and, visibly irritated at those instructions, says, Osha passed. Indara makes no effort to address him. instead keeping things very formal as she tells him that she will meet him at the camp once she's heard from the council. I thought that was very like,
shut up, Soul. Go do your
Mhm,
goddamn
mhm.
work.
I'm in charge. Do as you're told. That night, Soul paces uneasily around the camp. Wringing his hands together, he says something's wrong. Then Indara arrives with word from the council. The answer is no. They won't sanction bringing the twins to Coruscant or separating them from the Coven. Now, out of his first-hand experience, Torben protests, but there's something dangerous about these women. You saw what they were capable of. Soul gestures at Indara. You can feel the twins are not safe. But Indara says the council feels that they have interfered too much already. Ding, ding. Torben asks if they'll be allowed to go home, and Indara tells him flatly, no. Soul protests. Let me talk to the council. But Indara is firm that they've already made their decision. This is what I'm saying, like before. She's so firm now. I
Yes.
don't know why she couldn't just stick to that.
And she
We're
was
done.
so firm twice before and just immediately
Yeah.
flips as well.
I know. Pressing her, he continues. But Osha passed. Indara fires back. After you coached her. She cautions Soul not to alter her destiny over his own emotional attachment to her. Soul shouts at Indara, that's not what's happening here. Sighing, he goes on. I want to do what's best for Osha. But Indara tells him he doesn't get to decide that. Just then, a computer chimes. Torben says it's the twins' blood test results. He tells them the M count is extremely high, and they are very force sensitive. Looking at the device, Torben watches as the data for both girls overlaps in a perfect match. He's shocked that both girls' symbionts are the same. Indara reminds him that they are twins, but Torben points out this is different. Even identical twins would have different symbionts, and theirs are exactly the same. He says this is impossible without some kind of manipulation. Handing the device over to Indara, she studies the readout. Soul, completely aghast at the revelation, asks, the twins were artificially created? Indara theorizes that by tapping into a power dense enough, it could split one consciousness into two bodies. The revelation hits Soul as he remarks that only a virgins could create that type of power. Then it hits Torben, the answer to his deep desire. Without a word, he gets up and he marches straight towards one of the idle speeder bikes. Soul shouts at him to stop, but the Padawan is of singular focus as he mounts the bike. Don't you see? We just need proof of emergence, and those girls are the proof. This is our ticket home. Yanking on the control yoke of the bike rockets off. Soul is close behind as he mounts the second bike. Indara shouts, stop him. Kalnaka and I will take the ship. And with a quick glance over his shoulder, Soul gives chase.
You've already got your proof. You literally are holding it in your hand. Hey, check out these blood samples we took from these two kids.
I don't know.
Stop.
No.
Soul, chase him. And then when he gets there, come with me.
But again, it's that whole like, now that I'm away from her, I'm the knight and you're the Padawan, so I'll take the lead in this. Again, it's just so uncharacteristic for everything we've seen, for at least I feel it is, for the way that they've presented Saul up to now.
You ain't whistling Dixie, sister.
It kind of bothers me that the coolest, in my opinion, the coolest character of the show is now the instrument of destruction of this episode.
So just another thing to point out, he must be the villain. He's wringing his hands. Bad Batch, anyone?
Harold's back. Yeah. He says, yeah, where they break in for a third time.
I know.
Oh, wow. If you're gonna go big, right?
Yep.
At the fortress, the twins argue after May has gone berserk over Osha not failing the test. No need to repeat all that. Take a walk, go to your room, blah, blah, blah. As Soul races to catch Torben, Osha shares with Anastasia that she does want to become a Jedi. She says that she has to consult with her advisors, but they will consider her wishes when they do. This is an interesting perspective that we didn't get before. Mm-hmm. Elsewhere in the fortress, May struggles against Mother Coral's grip as she drags her through the hallway. Crying, she says, I don't want to go. Coral stops. Looking down at May, she hisses at her. You want to stop Osha from leaving? Then stop her. Then she throws May forcefully out into the courtyard. May rolls up to her feet, meeting her mother's gaze. Coral tells her that the Jedi won't warn her before attacking, and with her staff, launches into an attack of her own. May uses the Force to block the strike, and Coral uses a different angle of attack, only to be frozen again. Coral's lips turn up in a twisted smile as she praises May. Good girl, get mad. May drops her defense and runs off.
Give in to your anger.
Well, kind of dark.
She's egging her on.
Kind of dark.
You don't want her to leave. Well, do something about it.
Props. I don't remember this actress's name, but props to her performance in this episode. There's the whole fight. I could feel what she was doing there. It was pretty cool.
Well, at that moment.
Well, you just killed my wife.
Shh, we're not there.
Oh, sorry. Well, we've all seen it by now.
Spoilers.
In the common room, Anasea meets with the advisors, who pretty much unanimously vote against letting Osha go, based on the grounds that she's just a child who hasn't discovered her power yet, and what she means to the future of the Coven. Anasea insists that Osha's choice must be honored, and she questions if they should be making decisions on her behalf. Oh, the women all protest, saying that even though she is the girl's mother, she is also their leader. But Anasea's mind is made up, and she tells the women that in this case, she chooses to be a mom. Yeah, man.
Looking at that image, though, like comparative to the Jedi, look at the diverse, collection we have here too, right?
I still can't identify the crone. I don't know what species she is, but we've got a Twi'lek, and we've got the blue girl?
Oh,
a Pantoran.
Pantoran.
Yes. A Pantoran and a bunch of humans, or near humans.
Maybe she is. Who flew the Falcon with Lando in Return?
Sulliston.
I've seen her in one of the sequel movies. A character like that. I don't know what to say to look it up, but
yeah, I couldn't figure it out when we did episode 3, and it's still like, I don't know.
It was Agatha all along.
Which may be our next review series, by the way.
Ewoks.
That's a whole other thing. We'll get to that after.
We'll get there.
Yeah, she's going to be a mom. At the door to the courtyard, May uses a pipe to smash the elevator controls before announcing to the gathered women that no one gets in or out. Coral joins her and shouts at the scouts, "Witches, arm yourselves!" Meanwhile, Sol has finally caught up with Torben at the front gate. Having already tried the elevator controls, he tells Sol that he thinks the women have the twins locked inside. Well, Sol closes his eyes and reaches out with the Force. He senses the girls' confrontation in their bedroom, where May is telling Osha, "You can't go. You're stuck here now." Another piece of added context now that we know that May destroyed the elevator controls.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, why? Like, why
to prevent Osha from leaving?
No, I know, but like, why is Coral, arm yourselves? They don't know the Jedi are at the gate already.
Oh, she suspects they're coming, though.
Probably.
Of course she does.
But like, wouldn't it be a trip if, they're all armed and ready for combat and nobody shows up?
And nobody shows up.
Have you made your decision yet? Okay.
Yeah, really. All right. Right. So Sol instructs Torben to follow him, and they approach the fortress's curved exterior wall. Having made the climb once already, this should be old hat for him now. Before ascending the wall, Sol cautions Torben that he can't allow the witches in his head again because he needs him to help get the girls out. Torben acknowledges this, and then the two set off. We'll cut to May snatching Osha's journal and locking her in the bedroom. Tears streak down May's face as she takes the oil lamp from the wall. Then we cut to Indara and Kelnaka in the cockpit of the Poland shuttle. Seeing the V-shaped fortress cut into the face of the mountain, Indara realizes there's no way for her to land the ship there. She asks Kelnaka if she manages to get the ship close enough, can he make the jump? He howls an affirmative, and she tells him to go. They have to stop Torben, and possibly Sol, before either of them can start a conflict. As the ship slowly passes over the courtyard, with the spotlights on, by the way, it's like
invasion
as the police helicopter flies over. As the ship slowly passes over the courtyard with its floodlights on, Coral stands there watching. Armed women move about, readying themselves for whatever might come. One of the scouts approaches her, and Coral instructs her to get everyone in the common room and prepare for battle. Anastasia steps out into the courtyard, asking what's going on here, and the scout informs her that the Jedi have breached the fortress again. Stepping up beside Coral, Anastasia reminds her that she said, "We cannot use violence." Coral defiantly retorts, "And I told you I would die before I let the Jedi take my children." So there.
Mm-hmm.
The scout, this one with the crazy braids intermixed with tendrils, is incorrectly identified as Coral on the catwalk because she's the one that leads the archers.
Yeah.
Cut back to May in the hallway outside the bedroom with the oil lamp in her hand. She lights the journal on fire, just as we saw in episode 3, and the book is quickly overwhelmed. Now, this is the stuff that we didn't see, but we assumed happened. She tries to shake the flames out, but only fans the fire even bigger until she accidentally drops both the book and the oil lamp. Maybe because it's a ball of fire in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Osha runs to the window to call for help while May tries to stomp out the fire in the hall. But the oil just splashes around and the flames grow even larger, which catch a circuit panel on fire. Echoing Osha at the window, May calls out, "Mama!" and then runs to get help as the fire rages uncontrollably at the bedroom door.
Didn't learn that Force lesson yet.
Well, we assume that she, contained the whole thing.
Yeah.
I assumed that she dropped the lamp, but it was, in episode 3, it was like, was it malicious? Like, did she smash it? Clearly, that's not the case.
No, it's a regrettable decision.
Talk about, Hank, you'd said about watching them side by side to see if things lined up.
Right.
In episode 3, Osha runs to the window, "Mama!"
Right.
We don't get that part. We get May
saying,
at the door,
"Mama."
"Mama."
Yeah.
I wonder if those line up.
That'd be kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At the summit of the mountain, Saul and Torben make their way around the perimeter of the fortress while the scouts, armed with their bows, form up on a catwalk overlooking the courtyard. As the two Jedi step into the courtyard, both Coral and Anastasia are there to meet them. Coral steps forward, warning the Jedi, "Take another step and it'll be your last." Both men halt their advance. Anastasia tells them it was foolish of them to come back to the fortress. Saul holds up an open hand as he says they've come with noble intentions. Anastasia tells him, "You wish to know if we will allow Osha to join you, to be raised by an institution instead of a family." Saul doesn't wait for an answer. Instead, he asks, where did the twins come from? Coral's eyes betray her as they dart about. It would seem the secret is out. Saul asks how the girls were created. And Anastasia moves forward. Torben, who might be a little too twitchy for his own good at this point, steps back into a combat stance. On the catwalk, the archers raise their bows. The situation is as tense as it could possibly be. For now. Anastasia cocks her head as she tells Saul that someday those noble intentions you all have will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy.
She's had a vision.
I was going to say, has she foreseen it?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Torben retrieves his lightsaber from his belt, but Saul raises his hand to stay him. Just then, May runs into the courtyard yelling, "Fire! Help! Mama! Help!" All eyes are on the girl. Saul holds up his hand, "Osha!" for her to stop, mistakenly calling her Osha.
Yeah, that was weird for me.
Tunnel vision much?
I needed subtitles to
They are wearing the same outfit.
fix that for me.
But like, he doesn't care if it's not May. All he wants is Osha.
Yeah, again, he's just so tied up in his own feelings here, which just really makes me kind of go, oh, for his character.
Yeah.
Harold says, Saul hears May say, "Fire? Please help me," and then misunderstands the mother's intentions and kills her when she was just going to save her daughter. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, wait for it. It's coming. All eyes are on the girl. Saul holds up his hand for her to stop and mistakenly calls her Osha. With tears in her eyes, she desperately cries, "Help me." Coral is the first one to move as she brandishes her staff, ready to strike. Torben reacts by igniting his lightsaber.
At least this vindicates the one question: how the hell did he know May started the fire? She comes out and says fire.
Oh, there is a fire. Yeah. Anastasia shouts, "No!" as she weaves her dark magic, morphing her body into tendrils of black smoke. Saul watches, his mouth agape as the smoke moves towards May and her body begins to dematerialize as well. The descriptive audio here presents this as something else happening, and I don't agree with it.
Teleporting?
It talks about, well, it uses a very specific phrase. It says that as she becomes the smoke, she says she moves towards May to envelop her when clearly May's own body is dissolving.
Yeah, but she would have to smoke up first to become part of the other smoke.
I don't know if I don't know. I got some more questions.
And this is the part that I thought like she was attacking her here. Like I thought she was like,
okay, time to kill her.
Possessing her spirit or finishing the ascension ceremony,
time to
or
put
something.
The two together now. Yeah, that's an
either way.
Thought.
You can the trick to I guess killing smoke is to stab it.
Yeah.
but that doesn't work on actual people when you stab them with lightsabers.
Harold, you got a good point, my friend. We're going to get to that. I'm with you on that one. Let's turn that one off. Oh, wait. Yeah, Night Sisters did the same thing. Perfect. Yes. No, and then dematerialize. Okay, Saul, likely consumed with his own fear at this point, makes a fatal mistake by interpreting Anastasia's action as the sacrifice that May told him about during the test, and he ignites his lightsaber, driving it into Anastasia's smoky form.
I guess I made the same mistake he did. I'm not a Jedi.
Her body rematerializes instantly from the death blow, and Saul realizes, too late, that she was just trying to help her daughter. May cries out, "Mama!" Anastasia leans on Saul's shoulder as he deactivates his weapon. With her life quickly fading, she tells the Jedi that she was going to let Osha go because that's what she wanted. And as her last breath escapes, she whispers, "She chose you," and falls to the ground dead. May cries out, "No!" and runs to her dead mother. Coral stands there choking back her emotions as May tries to shake Anastasia awake. "Mama! Mama!" Saul kneels down, unable to speak to the girl's grief, and May finally looks up at him. Saul lets out a gasp at the sight of the Ascension tattoo. Coral, now a ball of pent-up rage, screams at May, "Run!" And May dashes out of the courtyard. Good point. I want to come back to this, the whole teleportation thing, because teleportation in Star Wars, not necessarily a new thing. And that takes us back to that thing I said in the forest. In episode 3, when the girls are in the forest, I'm part of you, you're part of me, we're together in the trees. When Coral comes into frame, I could have swore that she was just walking towards the camera, that she walked from the fortress to that place in the forest.
Sure.
This episode paints it completely differently because you can clearly see she appears from behind that tree. I feel that the mist thing is a form of teleportation. That's exactly what she was doing.
Sure.
I feel like in the courtyard, I feel like in the courtyard that Anastasia, she was dematerializing her and May so that they could both go
jump
somewhere
away.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. I get that. That makes sense to me.
And as Harold pointed out, it totally reminds me of things that we see the Night Sisters do, particularly with Marin and, of course, Mother Talzin.
It was the Night Sister magics. Like, I thought she was going to possess her and make her. I don't know what I thought, but
yeah.
But what you're saying makes perfect sense. It's just
And the other example is in the case of the Force dyad between Rey and Ben, is that they can physically move objects across the galaxy.
Place,
yeah. They can teleport objects through the Force. So teleportation, or move real fast in a smoky form. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, the descriptive audio doesn't make it any clearer, as it suggests that Anastasia's smoky tendrils are enveloping May rather than May being dematerialized herself. In hindsight, I think this is how Mother Coral surprised the twins in the forest. She didn't walk all the way there. Okay, inside the fortress, Osha slices the controls to the irising hatch in the bedroom, and she crawls inside to escape the fire. Out in the courtyard, the witches unleash a barrage of arrows. Torben twirls his amber lightsaber, deftly blocking them. At the same time, Coral, now consumed in her own rage, swings her staff at Sol, but he makes no attempt to block it. Instead, he just sidesteps and weaves his body around it before finally catching it in one hand. Coral lets go with one hand, and she drives a pair of elbow smashes into Sol's forehead. He offers no defense and just takes it. Then she plants a hard kick in his chest, which sends Sol back a few feet, and she recovers her staff. In one of the coolest flourishes of lightsaber action ever, Torben spins like a whirling dervish, and no arrow gets through. Good for him.
At least he learned that lesson.
Yeah. As Coral drives hard at Sol with her staff and another kick, Sol does little to defend himself. She screams at him, "Fight me!" And her anguish is palpable. Sol exhales remorsefully and he shakes his head. Once again, Coral gathers her rage and she drives hard at Sol with the bladed end of the staff. Sol catches the weapon but is pushed back several feet. This line, the whole fight me, like, I don't know where the actress was going internally to get that performance, but like that was amazingly well done. Just then, the sounds of stressed metal followed by explosions give everyone pause to take notice. From the cockpit of the Jedi shuttle, Indara is shocked as a pair of explosions erupt from the fortress wall. Inside, Osha pauses as the building shudders from the explosions, the screams of dying witches coming from a grate above her. With Coral distracted by the explosions, Sol ignites his lightsaber and cuts the staff in two. Now, with a lull in the battle, Sol shouts to Torben that the twins are locked inside. The very thing that he said at the front gate. I think they're locked inside. With a thin smile on her lips, Coral walks around the two Jedi and faces off with them before arching her back and dematerializing into the same black smoke as that Anastasia had
Pocus.
Abracadabra.
I'm a bat. Pocus cadabra.
I'm a bat.
Walla Walla, Washington.
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
If you want to go back one slide there.
Of course.
The explosion takes place fairly low on the whole mining thing, yeah?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the courtyard down at the bottom.
So it's still higher up than the gate that May had smashed. But what if May going down there and smashing the working whatever is what triggered
a bigger
everything to go to hell?
It makes more sense now. I figured just she started an electrical fire, which eventually burned through the circuitry.
Yeah, I always
that makes more sense now than just like.
I always took it was as opposed to episode 3, the burning rock.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, I know there were there's tapestries in the background and stuff, but that makes more sense. An electrical fire is a real thing that could spread very rapidly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'll buy that.
I'll recant that we don't really need a third perspective if that is the actual cause.
The electrical fire
that triggers the bigger one.
I believe it does. I think it's a widespread cascade effect, and I attribute it to the age of the facility.
Yeah. Because like that one frame there where they're looking up through the grate, I was like, okay, what is happening above that grate?
Oh, right. Because you hear the ah.
Yeah.
I just assumed that was people dying from. I presume some people did die in the explosions, even though that's not the big death scene that we focus on.
No.
So Harold has an opinion, but the fire didn't really kill anyone.
No,
I don't know if it did or not.
Nothing did.
I just don't know if it did or not. We don't see it expressly kill anyone, but the screams at the moment of the kind of suggest, if not killed, maimed.
Yeah.
Plus, we don't see over 50 witches.
What we're all talking about though is that scene where they're walking by.
Yeah.
All the not burnt bodies.
Yes. The no wounds, no lightsaber holes, nothing.
No Coral.
Yeah. Right. So before arching her back and dematerializing, sorry, get ahead here.
There you go.
With a thin smile on her lips, Coral walks around the two Jedi and faces off with them before arching her back and dematerializing into the same black smoke that Anastasia had previously done. Only this time, it just wafts away. Poof. Torben turns his attention back to the witches on the catwalk, only now they're all gone as well. As an ominous musical tone rises, Torben nervously utters, "It's happening again." The disembodied ethereal voice of Coral echoes, "You should not have brought him here." Nervously, Torben answers, "No, my mind is fortified." Derisively, Coral retorts, "Not you." Kelnaka roars as he now stands on the staircase leading into the courtyard, lightsaber in hand.
That Wookiee's gonna mess him up.
As Kelnaka ignites his lightsaber, the green glow of the blade lights his face, and we can see that his eyes are as black as pitch, just like Torben's were when he was under Anasea's control. Inside the common room, several witches, 16, by the way. I did a count on the death scene. It's 16 of them. Several witches, including the advisors, sit together, swaying and chanting in unison, their eyes blackened as well. It seems that unlike Anasea, who single-handedly took control of Torben, Coral has the women tapping into what I believe is an example of the power of many to control Kelnaka. Out in the courtyard, the three Jedi face off. Kelnaka proves to be a formidable opponent to both Saul and Torben. Every swing from the Wookiee is a killing blow, and both men struggle to individually fend him off. Kelnaka's strength in the Force, complemented by his immense physical strength, sees him leap with superhuman ability. He force pushes both men to the ground before focusing his attention on Torben. Standing over the Padawan, he makes several overhand chops. Torben scrambles backwards in a crab walk, blocking as he goes, struggling to get back to his feet. But it's moot as Kelnaka uses the Force to pull Torben into a chokehold before slamming him into a wall. With Torben now pinned, Kelnaka unleashes a huge side swing meant to cleave the boy in half. With his saber in a reverse grip and cross-bodied, Torben manages to block the initial blow, but it's all he can do to hold off the Wookiee's follow-through. But then Sol is there, and he grabs hold of Kelnaka's saber arm, pulling hard to stop the Wookiee from killing his comrade. He screams, "Kelnaka, no!" Kelnaka tosses Torben aside, and he's knocked out from the impact. His face mangled from having been Wookiee handled.
Now we know why he looks so good in that.
He got mashed up against the wall, as you can see there. Okay, once back on the ground, Sol uses the... Oh, did I? Yeah, I did. Okay. Once back on the ground, Sol uses... Oh my gosh. My mistake, everybody. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Oh, good.
Kelnaka tosses Torben aside. He's knocked out from the impact, his face mangled from having been Wookiee handled. Focusing on Sol, it's now strength versus agility as the Wookiee continues to power swing while Sol ducks and rolls to stay out of the way. At one point, Sol leaps over the Wookiee's blade, deactivating his own saber mid-flight so as not to strike Kelnaka. Once
on and off blade style.
That was the scene that we all saw where you thought
that he would be
that you thought that was Torben.
I thought he was going to be fighting Torben. Yeah.
Turns out he's fighting them both.
Yes.
Nice.
But like Torben is not possessed. It's
no.
Completely the other way around. So
once back on the ground, Sol uses the hilt of his saber to bash at Kelnaka's arm, forcing him to drop his weapon, and the green blade winks out as it rolls off to the side. Harold wants to know, anyone have an idea where Torben's scars come from? No one touches his face.
Yeah. It does look like he gets a pretty good, Wookiee scar.
It's
down there.
We had a different... Yeah, you were saying like it looks like he got smashed into the thing.
Being mashed into the wall.
And I was just looking up that, anticipating that we'd talk about this. The thing from Legends.
Yeah.
I can't actually even find out if it's Legends or canon. It's called Mad Claw. And so when a Wookiee uses his claws in combat,
that's right.
He removes himself from Wookiee society.
Yeah.
And so kind of what I interpreted it as, without having a screenshot of it, obviously, because he clearly has him by the opposite side of the face. But I thought he might have face palmed him direct and then just kind of shoved him
and clawed him in the process of doing that.
And so I thought that was a really cool nod to a Legends thing, and also why Kelnaka removed himself from Jedi sort of society, but you had pointed out he was stationed there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But Mad Claw, close enough for me, I guess, you know.
Well, if they dipped into Shriwook earlier, why not, right?
He loses an eye, right?
I'm okay. He doesn't lose the eye, but it goes. No, he keeps the eye, but he loses the vision in it.
Okay.
And I
Well,
didn't do
yeah.
a split screen on that. I should have, but
you do see in the top frame there, he's got visible scarring.
Oh yeah,
down
he's
on one side.
yeah, exactly. We're the side that he's
eventually
into the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, so where am I at here now?
But even without a lightsaber.
Even without a lightsaber, Kelnaka is no slouch, and he easily rends Soul's saber and bats it aside before throwing him like a ragdoll clear across the courtyard. That's a good toss too.
Mm-hmm.
Kelnaka lets out a thunderous roar before charging at Soul. Picking up the smaller Jedi with both hands, he begins to strangle the life out of him. But then Master Indara rushes into the courtyard and leaps onto Kelnaka's shoulders. With a rolling head scissor, Indara takes Kelnaka to the ground, landing in a mount position on top of him. That's a good comment too. Harold says he gets the Anakin scar. That's a good point.
Maybe it got infected.
I did like this sequence. Props to the stunt person who doubled for Carrie in this one. That was a very cool move. Kelnaka lets out a thunderous roar. She lands on the mount. Soul gets back to his feet, struggling to catch his breath while Indara places her hand over Kelnaka's temple and begins to concentrate. The Wookiee Jedi warbles something in Shriwook, and it's not clear if he's struggling against Indara or the witches. The witches, meanwhile, continue their swaying chant, trying to maintain control. But apparently, Master Indara's strength in the Force is stronger than the 16 witches and their power of many, as she severs their link to Kelnaka. And inadvertently or not, the severing of that link kills the women in the common room as they all slump over, while Indara gasps at their demise. Is she really, really that strong, or they're just not as strong? Like, this is my thing. Either Indara is super, super strong, or the witches just are super, super weak, because Anastasia could do this by herself.
So I guess if you're not a fan of The Last Jedi, you won't like this, my rationale behind this. And I keep trying to justify things, right? Because I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Yep.
But maybe they were putting themselves so far out there by using that ability that, like Luke Skywalker, that was their final act, regardless of.
Oh, right.
Like maybe
this is a one-way ticket.
It's a one-way ticket. That's the only thing that makes sense, because like we've seen people break people's use of the Force. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you do.
I feel like certainly Indara did not intend to do that.
No.
On her face, like she has the moment of realization, like they're dead.
I looked at it though, like I thought, are they dead or are they just knocked the hell out?
Well, again, the unreliable descriptive audio says they are dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that they're dead. Saul doesn't stop to check the bodies when he runs through the room, even though he stops like, whoa, bunch of dead people.
Yeah. You always loot dead people. Everybody knows that.
Check for lightsabers.
I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, Harold. Let me put this up here. Yes, this is how we know Indara something, all the witches. I'm not sure what you meant. Luca.
She lived on the second floor.
Wow, man. That's a deep cut. That is such a deep cut.
Right above Tom's Diner.
Oh my God. Where are you guys getting this?
Woo.
Oh. That's the one, yeah. Sorry, where was I? Oh, yeah. So
they're dead.
Again, I'm just talking about relative power levels. I feel like Indara and Anastasia are somewhere similar.
Well, so here you can do it like this. It takes an immense amount of combined ability to or remotely control somebody and still have them use their ability to use the Force and all their lightsaber skills and physical strength.
Yep.
Like operating with some sort of free will.
Yep.
But be controlled by that versus the actual physical interaction one-on-one of being able to just like help this thing that's fighting for its life break that. You know what I mean? Like
one of
her
the other
ability to interact with a single her friend, first of all.
Yep.
And then enter the mind of a single being versus many beings controlling all that craziness remotely.
Yeah.
I don't think the powers are that dissimilar. I just like they're both tremendous exhibitions of the Force, but
yeah.
I would say like, Indara's probably stronger. Like it's just a different, like the way the Jedi hone their ability to use the Force versus
yeah.
And you would think Kelnaka might be fighting back at the same time too.
Well,
right?
that's kind of it too,
like,
right?
So, like,
yeah.
When she's trying to like calm him, that's where I'm like, it's not clear to me. Is he struggling against her or the witches? Do you know what I mean? Like,
both.
Clearly it's a tug of war on him.
Yeah.
They were stealing their minds against a future attack, right?
Then the other angle that we're not looking at is how resolved is Kelnaka? Like, how mentally fortified is he to begin with? Maybe it takes this much power to control him.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the whole Wookiee great strength kind of thing.
And you would also think like there's a hierarchy. If Indara, is that her name? No, sorry, the Mother Anasea is the most powerful one. Therefore, the leader, she can do that trick herself.
Yeah. And then Coral to a lesser degree, because certainly Coral sets the whole thing up. You shouldn't have brought him here.
Yeah, and she bails.
But Coral is glaringly absent from this, the chanting witches. She's not there.
No.
Inadvertently or not, they slump over and Indara gasps at their demise. Suddenly, Kelnaka's eyes revert from the icky black and he's himself again. Without looking at him, Indara quietly tells Saul, "Get the twins."
In that picture of the all the witches there, the one you have on the screen, the middle one that we're questioning her species, she looks like Huikwe there.
That I thought that. I also thought the dog-faced guys.
Another one
of Jabba Nikto. Yeah. Didn't work though. He's himself again. As she tells him, "Get the twins." Sol tries to explain himself, but Indara cuts him off and she orders him to get them now. As Sol runs off, Indara wearily shuts her eyes, no doubt overwhelmed by what's just happened. As I said, I don't think she meant to kill them, and the look of shock on her face kind of says as much. But holy hell, 2 women couldn't hold off Anasea in training, but Indara can mentally defeat 16 of them. Either way, the witches are nowhere near as skilled as Anasea, and Coral or Indara is exceptionally powerful. Yeah. As Sol rushes off to find the girls, we revisit the destruction of the fortress generator and the blast that severs the catwalk and separates the twins. May reveals that their mother is dead. There we go. Now we know why Torben committed suicide. Yeah, the guy is like fraught with guilt. He is overwhelmed.
All because he wanted to go home.
I just want to go home.
So he did.
Sol rushes through the common room and is momentarily shocked at the sight of the dead women with no visible wounds. 16 of them in that shot, by the way. Sol rushes through as the girls argue on the catwalk, Sol sees both sides begin to sag. As the twins are reaching for each other, Sol reaches out with the Force, trying to hold up the damaged catwalk.
Instead of grabbing the children.
Well, with the structure slowly collapsing, Sol struggles to prevent it. Unable to support both sides of the walkway, he makes the choice that will haunt him for the next 16 years, and he focuses his efforts on Osha's half of the catwalk and watches helplessly as May falls into the cavern below. Osha, unaware that Sol was holding up the entire structure, screams as her side begins to falter. As she falls, she does fall, but only to be caught by Sol diving to the edge of the chasm to grab her. "I got you." Cut to black. But wait, there's more. Cut to hyperspace.
Pre-credit scene.
Cut back to hyperspace where the Poland shuttle is rocketing back to Coruscant. On board the ship, Osha lays on a medical berth while Sol stands over her. Kelnaka paces in the access way just outside the living space. He's clearly disturbed from the events at the fortress. Indara leans silently against a navigation console. Torben, whose face and left eye are disfigured from the battle, steps forward to apologize. She doesn't acknowledge the apology. Instead, she orders Kelnaka to send a message to Coruscant. Not what kind of message? No details on the content. Just send a message.
Are they going to understand him though, or is he just going to be like
universal translator? We saw Jackie used one.
There you go.
As the Wookiee leaves, she shoots Torben a reprimanding glare, and she tells him flatly, "We're going home." Torben struggles to maintain eye contact with her. She chides, "I warned you not to interfere. I warned both of you." A downtrodden soul stares at the floor as he says he only wanted the twins to be safe. "With no thought of the consequences," says Indara. Soul replies, "I had to make a choice." And he goes to walk out of the room, but Indara grabs him by the shoulder. The two nearly come to blows, with Torben finally shouting, "Master! Master!" to break them up. Both Jedi are fraught with emotion. Soul in his anguish, and Indara in her presumably anger and sorrow. Torben asks, what will they tell the council? And Indara makes a choice of her own. She says they'll tell the truth, that May started a fire that burned down the fortress, and everyone was lost. Soul quietly protests, "Indara, I must face the council." But she cuts him off sharply. Wheeling to face him, she points at Osha laying on the medical berth, and she asks, "Why would you do that to her? After everything this little girl has lost tonight, you'd take away her dream as well?" Indara walks over to face Saul. "Before you throw yourself at the mercy of the council, ask yourself why you made this decision or made this choice." Osha stirs awake, calling out, "Mama, Mama!" Soul rushes over to her and removes the medical mask. Helping her sit up, he tells her she's okay. Looking at Soul, she asks, "Where am I?" Soul tells her they're on their way to Coruscant. She then asks, "What happened?" Soul swallows and he looks to Indara, who nods at him before he turns back to tell Osha that May started a fire. Cut to black. Harold says, Soul tells Osha to have courage and tell the truth. Hours later, they're covering up everything and lying their arses off. It's so true. It is so true.
Yeah. I think I've said it all. I just don't feel like Jedi act like this. I don't understand the flip-floppy nature of every character. Maybe that's the theme of the show, that everybody's like two-faced or a sense of duality to everything.
Yep.
And I've said it before too. I prefer my Star Wars sort of cut and dry. I like my good guys to be good guys.
Wear white hats. Yeah.
No, I kind of, you know.
I understand Indara's flipping at this point though, because like she would have stayed the path if Saul and Torben hadn't run off and fucked the whole thing up.
Again, that whole
she's got to know that it's just putting off the inevitable. Right?
It is, but at the same time, she just killed the twins' whole family.
Well, this is it too, right? Like, how do you face the council and go, "Oh, and I'm responsible for the death of 16 women"?
So she's just covering up her own.
This is what I mean. Like, but again, that goes back to what I said before when I thought that Indara was kind of shady. That I thought that she was sort of in it for herself. There is a bit of a reflection of that. Like, oh, I got to save my own butt now too.
And then she's off at a cantina somewhere drinking ostensibly. And you know, the weirdest thing is that like Saul goes through the motions. Like he maintains the lie for 6 years training this girl. It fails and she leaves. Like how long has she been gone?
16 years.
She's been gone 16 years. So he barely got a chance to train her at all then.
No, she's been gone 10 years.
10 years.
So 6 years.
He trained her for 6 years. Gone. And it's like he goes on with his life. Like this isn't, and I guess that's more like a real person than anything, I guess, where it's only a problem when it rears its head again.
Yeah.
You know, where Torben, you see Torben, he's been wearing it on his sleeve, but what happens 6 years into this that suddenly sparked him to go, "I'm going to meditate forever"? That suddenly sparked her to leave. That suddenly, you know, so there's almost a story. At that 6 year mark, like some event there that changed everything too.
That could be worth telling whether.
Well, Osha did say that Indara had some hand in saying, you know, we shouldn't be training you anymore.
That's true. So I do have some final thoughts. I've got another slide that I want to leave on. I'll go through these as quickly as I can. the whole Rashomon thing, it couldn't be clearer now. As I said, as we were going through it, we have far better context for the way that Kelnaka, Torben, and Indara are initially presented to us. And that's okay now. It's definitely easier to digest going back and watching it immediately after this episode. What do we think about the idea that the girls are a single consciousness separated?
It sounds like that's the way they're going to distinguish them from Anakin.
Yeah,
there's still like the dangling participle of how are they created? Like, are we going to get into that, or are we just going to assume that it's they tapped into the version somehow and managed to do that?
I'm actually of the opinion that the witches already knew how to do it, and it's the witches that taught the Sith. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like I said in the first episode when you said that, or third episode, I was like, I just don't want that to be true because I find them so ineffectual. I don't want them to be the catalyst for something that I'm like so near and dear to me. I can't control that though, so if that's the case, I guess I'll live with it. With
the girls, I'm going to say this. Oh yeah, I've got that later. Let me advance here because this is the one I want to leave on. I got a few things going on here. We talked about virginces all throughout the episode, and you had asked, is the cave a virgin? So yes, I've included the dark side cave, or dark side nexus, as that one is particularly known as. The cave is a virgins. The original, yes, Octo is one. The original Kyber crystal from Splinter the Mind's Eye, that form would be considered a virgins.
Yes.
And oddly enough, the photo of Anakin Skywalker actually has two virginses, because both Anakin himself and the Skywalker saber are both considered virginses, although Anakin is the only one that is surrounded by a person.
Yeah.
And the dyad between Rey and
not a virgin.
Not a virgin.
So I was wrong about that when I was like, they're a dyad. I've got it figured out. I was wrong about that.
I chose these character posters and I've arranged them in this particular way because it kind of it supports sort of what I'm thinking here. Do we all think that Coral is Chimere's master?
There's a good possibility. Otherwise, why would she ghost out and bail?
Yeah, she's definitely still alive.
Like 2 minutes prior, she was like, I'm fighting to the death for my kids.
I mean, Headland said she has a plan for season 2 that involves something more along the lines of Pelagius or Tenebris without dropping names. And hopes to get a season 2, but I think that she plans on wrapping it up such that if they don't, it's not going to leave anything crazy.
It has to be pretty concise here.
Yeah. But I still think we're going to get like somebody like Tenebris or somebody around that era. Pelagius isn't alive. I mean, I guess they've already done that with Giyati Monday, so
I mean,
not a big deal. But
we can play loose with that stuff. We've already done it.
We could do that, but I mean, it could be. I like my idea of having that helmet possessed. I think
I totally like that as well.
It's a cool thing.
I meant to bring that up and I forgot. And if you had been here last week, I would have.
That. Yeah.
Oh, I was twitching to talk to you about it. I'd forgotten about it. Harold wants to know thoughts. Soul, will we see Darth Plagueis in the last episode?
I don't think so, but I think we'll see some sort of. I would put my mind if we're going to see anybody, it'd be Tenebris, but I'm not sure that they'll go that deep.
I'm not sure either. And then the cave on Dagobah is also a word. Yes, it is. Yep,
it's in there. Yep.
Harold thinks that Vernestra Rowe is Darth Plagueis.
I mean, if you really want to send the fandom into a
want to subvert. yeah.
If you somehow Palpatine returned.
Good subversion, bad subversion.
And at that point, if it is something like that, you got to wonder, are they literally just pouring gas on a fire to?
I don't know.
For the sake of
likes on a post. It's literally likes on a post at this point.
Serotonin. You know what I'm saying.
Yes.
So I've arranged the twins around Chimere specifically for a reason. One, Hank, you nailed it. We potentially have a role reversal here. We've got May, who's now with Saul, who may, now have a better understanding that he tried to. Oh, okay, I'm sympathetic. Doesn't change the fact that she's still a murderer. And now we have Osha, who is, potentially being seduced by Chimere.
Oh, hell, heavily seduced.
I've said at least since last week, if not before that, I believe the twins are going to come together, and it's going to take both of them to stop him. The question I have is, will the show be bold enough to physically recombine them into one person?
At which point the tattoo moves from side to middle.
maybe.
Like
Seriously though, like why not?
We're getting there though. We're getting into that, like, as we were winding down that Bad Batch thing going, there's all these many things that we need to wrap up. We're asking for so much to be done in a half hour, 40 minutes of show.
I know.
I can't see it again. I can't, there's too much wide open stuff.
Like we never got closure on the whole hand wringing thing from
oh my god, from Hemlock.
Yeah.
I just want to address Harold's comment here. You guys have been great. Thank you for letting an old man hang out. Listen, we're all the old men here, man. If you haven't checked out our back catalog, we've been doing this for about 4 years now. We've got review series for all the live action Star Wars going all the way back to season 2 of The Mandalorian, only because we didn't switch to video podcasting until after season 1. But we did do a season 1 recap. We are going to be covering Skeleton Crew and, of course, the next season of Andor and all the new live action Star Wars as it comes out. We did talk about doing an Ewoks retrospective, seeing as both Ewoks and droids are on Disney Plus. So if you want to come back and hang out with us for that, you're more than welcome to. We live stream here Sunday nights. That's typically our Star Wars night, or rather it's our review series night, whatever we happen to be reviewing. Probably going to be Agatha All Along is the next one. But we do have some time before that, and I think we're going to cover some Ewoks. And then Tuesday nights, Andy and I are here talking about random pop culture entertainment stuff in a news magazine format. So thank you for hanging out with us. Sorry, I just wanted to address that. We got one more left.
We do.
We got one more left. And yeah, Hank, you're hitting it on the head, man. There's a lot to tie up.
It better not be 29 minutes.
I can't imagine it being that short.
And if this was all just from Saul's perspective, the next episode better open with May, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, you killed her mom.
I've never, I've had some issues with things. Certainly, I've been pretty much, if not an apologist, I've been a fan of everything that Disney's been doing.
Yeah. I've come to the conclusion that I'm a full-on Star Wars apologist.
I'm honest when I say this is the one that I'm like, I can't wait for it to be done.
Yeah, you've really struggled with this one.
I just want it to be over so I don't have to think about it anymore.
No, and that's okay. I'm glad that you stuck it out. I'm glad that you stayed with us.
This is wonderful. This is, I would never trade this.
Yeah.
We could be reviewing flies on shit, and I'd be like, okay, that fly there just moved.
I just appreciate that we can all come together and have a discussion about this stuff that isn't, like, well, you're a libtard or you're
right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, no, that I think we've been explicitly clear about that with our fans and with our viewers anyway. I don't know if you're fans or not, but and each other, that it's all you can have a rational and that's what's lacking in the fandom. This is what and I've been trying to stay away from it, but there are I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen what's happened to the editor from WikiLeaks.
No.
WikiLeaks or Wikipedia?
Wikipedia. He doesn't have a job anymore.
I have a real strong opinion.
There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the background that I'm trying to dissociate from, because it really doesn't increase or decrease my enjoyment of the show.
I mean, they better cancel me because I edited Wikipedia at one time.
Right.
Like, you should cancel me.
It's I've got 2 words on Urban Dictionary. So
nice. And on that whole kerfuffle with that particular YouTuber, I have to tell you, I unsubscribed from him a long time ago.
Yeah.
And even though I periodically look through the window, I'm not stepping through the door again. The bigger that individual gets, the less and less I feel that he is connected to the fans that he professes to care about. So it's not for me. I'd rather just stay away from that stuff and do our own thing.
It's way healthier.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's great. It's great to have folks like Harold come along for the ride. And I mean,
that's awesome.
Tej was here tonight. Zazel dropped in. Greg, Sarah, everybody, Sean, everybody who, Steve, thank you very much.
Doug's probably there, but he's on oxys because he had foot surgery on last Friday. So
well,
if he's there, he's probably a loopy. He thinks that's a totally different show. Also, I introduced him to My Hero, and he could be well invested into that. Now.
Well, there you go. There you go. I'm going to go and get caught up on House of the Dragon here in a few minutes.
But, nice.
Yeah. Next Sunday, I'm not sure if we're next Sunday we will have the final episode. It's the week after that. We'll have to put something together for you, but I have a sneaking suspicion we'll have something ready.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Any more before we sign off for the night?
I think that was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you guys had a great time. I know I had a great time presenting this week, so can't wait to do it again next week. Come see us on Tuesday night. Remember, everybody, whatever your thing is, fan on. And for Fandom Power, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Hank.
We will see you on the next one. Bye for now, everybody.
Yeah, in a minute.
Oh.